Hello and welcome to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. I must apologize for the delayed start of the program. However, circumstances out of our control, well, unfortunately, it kept us back a bit this morning. But we're still here. We're still able to have a program, and I'm grateful and appreciative of you joining me once more to start another day, a brand new day here in TNT. Well, our first discussion this morning surrounds the issue of non-communicable diseases. And as you're aware, it's a term of which you're probably familiar with, actually, since the announcement of more funding for the Ministry of Health to deal with the issues surrounding non-communicable diseases, especially with hypertension and diabetes. Well, the conversation has spurred. In fact, the NCRHA has indicated that they've screened 33,000 individuals for NCDs. But this morning, to give us a greater insight and share with us greater information and educate us on the issue, I'm joined by Ms. Nandani Samuel. She's a dietitian at the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, Ms. Samuel.
Good morning.
Well, thank you very much for joining me this morning, Ms. Samuel. Start the conversation by speaking specifically to what non-communicable diseases are, with reference especially to hypertension and diabetes, because it's a term that we've heard many a times before, but probably not entirely sure exactly what it is.
Right, okay. So non-communicable diseases are exactly as you said. So it's like diabetes, hypertension, chronic kidney disease, all of these would fall under non-communicable diseases. So in Trinidad is something that we want to look at, especially because of the rise. So at the Diabetes Association, we want to say that diabetes is the second leading cause of death in Trinidad. So it's also the fifth cause of highest mortality in the world. So over 200 persons are actually living with diabetes, and that's just with diabetes, one of the chronic non-communicable diseases. So over 200 persons are living with it. Some of them do not even know that they have diabetes.
Well, that's rather scary that some of them aren't even sure, that they're living with diabetes. How can one have an idea? Are there signs and symptoms as you would experience with any other virus or disease for that matter of fact?
So with diabetes, we want to look mainly at like tiredness, sleepiness, some of them frequent urination. But besides all these signs and symptoms, I would like to say it's important to do what we call the HbA1c test, because sometimes you're noticing all these signs and symptoms, but I mean the weather in Trinidad is hot, right? So a lot of persons may feel like, okay, if they are feeling extremely thirsty or to go into the washroom often, it's probably because of the weather. But it's important to test, because if you don't test, you may not know. So we have what we call the HbA1c test, which is basically the gold standard measurement for diabetes. So what this does is measures your blood sugar over a 3-month period. So your red blood cells die every 3 months, and it attaches itself to sugar particles in the blood. So this percentage would tell you how high you are at risk of the diabetes, right? So we have a percentage 5.7 to 6.4 saying that you are pre-diabetic, above 6.5 saying you are at risk or you have diabetes, and below 5.7 is normal. So when you get ranges like this, you want to be aware exactly of what you have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's speak to the specifics. Exactly what is diabetes?
Right, so diabetes is basically when the body does not produce sufficient insulin to remove your blood sugars, the amount of blood sugars that you have coming in when you eat foods and so on, right? But it's important to also know that we have two main types of diabetes in Trinidad. We have type 1 and we have type 2. Type 1 is basically where the body or the pancreas is producing little to no insulin. So you need insulin injections in order to survive. And this is what we are seeing in children especially. So we have a lot of children at the Diabetes Association as part of our youth branch that actually have type 1 diabetes. So they are born with diabetes. And then we have type 2, which is basically caused because of unhealthy diets and lifestyle. And this usually we would prescribe, or doctors would prescribe medication, but it's important to change your lifestyle as well. Mm-hmm. And gestational is diabetes during pregnancy. We are also even realizing a new type of diabetes now called MODY, M-O-D-Y, and we are seeing it in teenagers. We are not sure of the cause. It may be genetics. It's similar to type 1, but there are different tests that we conduct to realize exactly what you have.
So type 1 could be genetic based, and you even
Yes, yes,
suggesting that
definitely.
maybe, possibly, because you're not entirely sure the cause of moody, but
No, no.
type 2 is more so to do with diet and
Yes,
lifestyle.
lifestyle, yes.
Right.
And this is what is the problem in Trinidad, because type 2 is the one that's highest in Trinidad. And it's actually rising even in children. So we are seeing that type 2 is even higher in children than in what was 5 years ago. And that's why we specifically have things like our diabetes awareness camps in July and December. We have two camps for the year, and our main is to aimly bring about awareness, not just to persons who are living with diabetes, or children, I should say, but those who may be at risk. So if you see that probably you have a family history, you have a high A1C, we will tell you, okay, you should sign up for the camp, which is absolutely free. So closer to the date, we'll be giving out more information on social media pages and so on.
Now, in your experience, in particular, what would be the cost of diabetes, not only in terms of how a person would live or how they should be living if they are diagnosed with diabetes, but also generally on the medical healthcare system?
Okay, so the cost obviously would increase, but there are many government associations that would help out. So, for instance, within CDAP, I know they do give medications and so on, and at the hospitals, they do give medication. But at the Diabetes Association, of course, we are an NGO, so we do tests such as the A1C and the cholesterol. So, for instance, the A1C is $80, A1C and cholesterol together is $160. And this is something we advise to do every 3 months or so, because as I mentioned, your red blood cells die every 3 months, and only then you would get the changes. So yes, the cost of living for persons living with diabetes is a bit higher, but it's not something that we can't manage.
Do you often see individuals coming to test when it's too late? Let's say they've been experiencing these symptoms for quite some time now, but they're not too bothered about it. As you mentioned, for example, the weather is hot. That just might have an impact on your body. But people tend to just try their best to ignore it until it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens exactly is that they come in, and when they come in to do their A1C, they reach so late, sometimes they even put themselves at risk of complications. And what I've been seeing happening the most at the Diabetes Association is chronic kidney disease, where diabetes has become so bad in their body that it starts damaging their organs. And some of them are even close to the stage of dialysis, and they don't even know it. So that's why I'm mentioning it's important to start testing early. Whether or not you're seeing, some persons may not see signs and symptoms, and some persons may. But if you know that you have a family history of it, and you're experiencing some sort of, let's say, even one of the symptoms, it's important to test.
Now, I know the mantra that you've been preaching is to test as early as possible, which I understand. But still, just for clarification, is that everyone should test, or should they test if they start experiencing symptoms?
Well, as I mentioned before, it's important. I think everyone should test, only because some symptoms are not experienced. Some persons do not even experience symptoms, but they have the family history. So once you know that you probably have the family history or the risk factors of diabetes, it is important to test, such as being overweight, the family history. If you have a history of PCOS in the family, you should go and test.
Okay, so we mentioned medication earlier. You said that how there are government-assisted programs and even NGOs that assist, but the availability of medication worldwide, we've seen a shortage of drugs and medication. Is that something that we're experiencing here in Trinidad and Tobago as well?
I would not say that we have a shortage. I would say yes, in some medication categories there are, but they are always given some sort of substitutes or some sort of replacement for these medications.
And such substitutes are good enough, because substitutes do not necessarily equate to being what is required. Substitutes are just, listen, it's a bandage to try and work at this point in time.
Yeah, so even if we do not have some within the healthcare system, yes, they give, I would not call it a band-aid, but yes, they give some sort of medication to help out with that until they receive. But from my knowledge, there's no shortage.
So now let's go to the issue of diet and lifestyle. Oftentimes, our diet here in TNT is not necessarily the greatest. We're hearing now for years focus more on blue foods, focus more on natural foods. Even when it comes to flour, try and look at substitutes such as cassava flour. I know people are trying their best, but there's a cost associated with that. Is it that people just simply cannot afford the healthier options, and therefore they have no choice but to actually go towards these more cheaper alternatives, which are not necessarily healthier?
Okay, so in Trinidad, we have a saying that healthy eating is expensive, right? This is true to some extent because there are things we can actually do to mitigate this from happening. So let's say I always advise persons to reuse leftovers, to buy local produce instead of the foreign ones. So instead of the foreign fruits such as the berries and all of that, we have our local fruits in season that you can use in place. Let's say you cook lentil rice and stew chicken today with fresh salad, you have remaining lentils. You could always reuse it for the next day to make, let's say, lentil loaf or lentil soup. It's important to plan your meals beforehand. So let's say you go to the grocery, you want to scan your refrigerators and your cupboards before you actually do so that you know that there's no wastage happening. You buy produce, we don't want to buy too much of the processed food, obviously, so more of the fresh or the frozen peas and beans. And we want to try to have some sort of kitchen garden happening. So even if it means something as simple as seasoning, it's important to try to use these few things. And I mean, a lot of people in Trinidad, as you said just now, we tend to go to purchase food outside or probably buy fast foods. But it's something that's just convenient. So if you prioritize your health and is important to you, it's important that you probably meal prep. I tell people to always plan, prioritize, and prepare. So that's the three words I use, especially when counseling patients, so that you have that idea that, let's say on a Sunday evening, you could meal prep for the rest of the week. But the cost is relatively a bit higher when it comes to eating healthy.
Mm-hmm. Even the availability of products locally, the quality and standards may not be as great as the imported product. I think that is also an issue that we need to focus on. Do you think there needs to be greater collaborations, for example, between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that there are programs that are actually implemented and are working efficiently to ensure that there is affordable produce that is available for all?
Yeah, I definitely think that collaboration would help a lot because when produce is in season, let's say local produce, sometimes the prices are marked up so high that persons may not be able to afford. So it's important that we have some sort of collaboration happening, especially for the low-income families who may have a lot of children and so on, because as I mentioned, diabetes is rising in children. So we want to make sure that our youths are getting proper nutrition. Even at schools, we want to ensure that, they have their meals throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, when they go home, they have something to eat. So it's important that collaboration happens.
Mm-hmm. Now, specifically, what would you say is a healthy lifestyle? I know we were using the term natural foods and more healthier alternatives and options, but in your eyes as a dietitian, we always see this food pyramid. Is that really what we should be following? Is that the Bible to follow? Is there something else more, now that science is constantly evolving, that you would suggest as a healthy lifestyle?
Okay, so in Trinidad, we tend to go more to, as I mentioned before, more to foreign produce and also more to what US is doing, right? So let's say they are following this food pyramid, but we actually have something called the Caribbean 6 food groups that persons don't even know of. I mean, in schools, they are using it right now. So it consists of staples, legumes, food from animals, fruits, vegetables, and your fats and oils. So in your staples group is basically what you would find most of in your plate, like your rice, roti, pasta, all of that. And in this group, I advise persons, yes, we want to have all of the groups throughout the day. So this is what we call a balanced diet. But it's what you're choosing from these groups, your cooking methods, and of course your meal timings and so on would determine your balanced diet. So from the staples, for example, that's your carbohydrate group. So it's the main source of energy. So we want to stick more to the provisions. I mean, long ago, we used to have provisions and so on. Now they stick more to the quinoa and all of that expensive things. And we want to stick more to the healthier options, which means the one higher in fiber. So persons with diabetes, especially, I advise them to have a high fiber diet, meaning more of the whole wheat bread, the brown rice, whole wheat pasta. Let's say with your protein sources, which are your legumes and food from animals, you want to encourage some sort of healthy cooking method happening, because with your peas and beans and let's say your meat sources, a lot of persons tend to cook with brown sugar and ketchup or stew with brown sugar and ketchup. So it's important to adapt a healthier method, which I always tell persons they could use the 100% tomato paste, the uku, or the lime juice to stew instead of adding all these things. You could also say that you're eating healthy and you are frying your foods instead of grilling it or baking it, right? With your fruits and vegetables, it's important to include these at each, let's say vegetables, example, at each meal you want to have your vegetables, fruits as your healthy snacks, and fats and oils in moderation. So as a healthy plate, I always try to tell people that their plate should look combined with staples, protein, and vegetables. So for instance, let's say for breakfast, a simple meal as, let's say, tuna in water, and you probably make a tuna salad with vegetables in it, 2 slices of whole wheat bread, and you have like a cucumber on the side, or you have your vegetables already there. Lunchtime, rice, red bean, sea chicken, salad on the side. But your plate should always be, we use something we call my healthy eating plate. So quarter of your plate should be a staples, quarter with your protein, and half with provisions. So this is a concept we try to use not just at lunch, but throughout the day. And then ideas could be something as simple as a chicken breast wrap, where you add grilled chicken breast, a whole wheat tuna wrap, as well as vegetables in it. So it's something, I mean, people even love doubles in Trinidad, right? I tell them, yes, sometimes you can have the double shana, 2 slices of whole wheat bread, or even a whole wheat hops, and we have a cucumber or some sort of vegetable on the side. So the main concept is to have a combination of these meals following our Caribbean 6 food groups, and not just one, because in Trinidad we have this culture of just eating from our staples group, which is basically like the fry aloo and the roti. On Sunday we cooking fried rice, macaroni pie, noodles. So the starches are even higher in our plates and not sufficient vegetables or protein. So again, the combination is what matters to create a healthy, well-balanced diet.
I think some people are not going to be too happy with what you just said there. You know, we tend to move towards like the fry aloo and the roti and the pies. But it's good, and I'm actually grateful that you went into detail there. In fact, if I may say so myself, everything you just mentioned there sounded way better than that one word you use, quinoa. Right, so definitely not the greatest thing. But also beyond that, you know, you can have a healthy diet, but it's just daily practices. Some other things that you do as well, which you might not truly understand, has an effect on your entire body. For example, smoking. Is it that smokers are more they're more susceptible to actually becoming diabetics as compared to just those who eat unhealthy?
Yes, definitely. So smokers, persons who drink a lot of alcohol, we have serving sizes for alcohol as well under the American Heart Association. So persons who may not exercise. So there are a lot of risk factors we need to take into consideration, and not just having an unhealthy diet. So it's lifestyle as well. I mean, even drinking enough water. Some persons don't drink sufficient water for the day. So not the 6 to 8 glasses of water. Many of them only drink 1 bottle of water for the day, or drink a lot of sugar sweetened beverages. And what we like to speak about at the association is sugar sweetened beverages, right? Because a lot of these beverages, persons don't read nutrition facts labels. And that's why I think is important, especially for children, because according to the American Heart Association, we should only have at least 6. Women and children should have less than 6 teaspoons of sugar for the day, and men should not have more than 9. This seems a lot, but when you drink actually one of these sodas, sometimes it's more in one of these sugar sweetened beverages like our juices and some of these sodas on the market. Even in our flavored water, some brands has a lot of sugar in them. So it's important to read your label. We want to remember that 1 teaspoon of sugar is equal to 4 grams of carbs. So let's say you have 64 grams of sugar in a drink. You just divide it by 4 and you get the amount of teaspoons. So that's 16 teaspoons of sugar in 1 drink. So it's important to be mindful to know this conversion as well as read your nutrition label, because sometimes in a label as well, there's 2 serving sizes or even 3 servings per container. So let's say you buy a pack of cookies and you eat the entire pack, but the nutrition label is only telling you for 2 cookies.
Yes.
And you don't know this. So it's important to know how to convert and to multiply, especially reading nutrition labels.
Is that something that we need to educate the population more about? Is okay, I can read the label, but actually breaking it down, analyzing it, and understanding it. Is that something that needs to be done more?
Yeah, exactly. We need to try as much as possible to educate the population, because this is where the deficiency lies then. Because if there's not enough education, they would not be able to follow. And that's why we are trying to adapt to we are trying to bring in what we call front of label packaging into Trinidad, where you see the numbers, especially with sugars, fats, and cholesterol and so on at the front of the packaging sold, right? We want to have these things readily available. So this is something they are working on right now to get done in Trinidad.
Now, as we get to the end of this conversation, and thank you very much for going into detail this morning, Ms. Samuel. I think it's absolutely necessary, and I hope we can do this more often. But should people want more information or even want to visit the Diabetes Association, could you just share that information with the viewing public this morning?
Okay, so at the Diabetes Association, besides what I mentioned before, the A1C test and the cholesterol, we also offer free nutrition counseling where you get one-on-one with a dietitian for an hour long. It's on Wednesdays, so you could call our number at 607-3288 or 607-DATT. We also offer what we call eye screening on certain days for the month, so it's free to the public. You just call to make an appointment. So there's many other services that are offered throughout. And it's important, to get tested. I think that's what I really think I need to say to the public. We need to get tested.
So I think we should remember that mantra this morning. You need to get tested. You need to read your nutrition label and try and understand it. And you also need to,
look at Caribbean 6 groups.
Yes. So rather than just focusing on what convenience is, it's less convenient to be lying in a hospital bed than actually, being able to do other things. So thank you very much, Ms. Samuel, for your time this morning, for the information and the effort on your part for trying to educate the public and work with the public just to make Transvaal a bit healthier. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
Yes.
That was Ms. Nandani Samuel at the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago. There you have it, folks. I mean, basic, simple things can lead to more effective measures, such as just reading your nutrition label, So remember that mantra today, in the days to come, for the rest of your life. Do your part so that we don't have to come visit you on a hospital bed. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we take a quick break here on AM Prime. When we're returning, we'll get into some regional updates this morning. Stay tuned to the program.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah. Hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunas Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
Welcome back to AM Prime, and thank you for staying with me this morning. We now get into some regional updates, ladies and gentlemen. We start with the island of St. Lucia, where the Ministry of Finance of St. Lucia is reporting that the country's economy registered a primary surplus for the first time in years. This is due to the rebound in the economy, tighter fiscal management, a greater revenue collection. The government is projecting another primary surplus and further expansion of the economy in the next fiscal year. Now, we are aware that the opposition in St. Lucia, led by former Prime Minister Alan Chastanet, while they're raising concerns over certain taxes that the government wants to implement, levies that is. They're also concerned that even though the government is suggesting that the economy registered a surplus due to tighter fiscal management, such fiscal management has also led to a great increase in the cost of foods and produce, items that are necessary just for daily living. Even gasoline on the island the price has just skyrocketed according to the opposition. So let's take a look at this video, hopefully explaining what's really taking place there. This is from the Ministry of Finance in St. Lucia.
The Ministry of Finance is touting the favorable financial data on the performance of St. Lucia's economy for 2022 to 2023. For the first time in years, the economy registered a primary surplus. A primary surplus is achieved in a financial year when the tax revenue collected by the government is greater than the expenditure, excluding debt interest payments. Budget Director Fiona Hinkson says the primary surplus has allowed the government to invest in projects and programs to further grow the economy.
I would say in more recent times, we have been running a primary deficit where we had to borrow in order to meet our interest on debt.
The projections for the past financial year was for the government to spend more than $200 million than it expected to receive in tax revenue. In the end, the opposite was true. It collected more by way of taxes than it spent.
In 22-23, the approved estimates when we first started the budget, the approved estimates indicated that we would have run a primary deficit. However, during the course of the year for government operations, we end up with a primary surplus of $29.6 million rather than the $220 million deficit that we had initially projected.
So, what is responsible for the primary surplus? The rebound in tourism and other sectors of the economy, tighter fiscal management, and greater revenue collection. The Budget Director, Fiona Hinkson, says this is the coming together of several factors.
So you have the combined effect of the recovery of the economy, improved revenue, as well as reduction in expenditure, gave the result that we had in the primary surplus that you saw, that you've seen for us for 22-23. With the surplus, we're able to possibly invest in goods and services that would benefit the entire population, as well as invest in new projects that would assist MSMEs, to expand their business, to recover from the COVID-19 and so on.
The government, in its 2023 to 2024 budget, is projecting another primary surplus and further expansion of the economy, which grew by 18.1% last year. This places it in a position to inject finance into new potential areas of growth, such as the youth economy and other programs, to provide relief for ailing sectors of the economy still reeling from the effects of COVID-19. Stanley Lucien for the HCS News Force.
It still amazes me that in this day and age, economies have to borrow money and put themselves in greater debt in order not to just repay debts that they already have outstanding, but to also match their expenditure. Well, fortunately, it seems, based off of that report, and remember you have to contextualize it, and that doesn't give much context. The situation in St. Lucia, according to the Ministry of Finance, is getting better. I can only hope that is absolutely true, just as I can hope so for every single nation across the world, in which we're always being told things are getting better, things are looking up, and yet we're still feeling the bite. Anyway, moving on to Barbados. Well, another update with respect to the financial situation, financial status. Barbados' performance under the IMF program has been given the go-ahead. According to Prime Minister Mia Motley, there's a return of confidence in the domestic banking sector and 8 consecutive quarters of growth in the Barbados economy. This is a report coming from the island of Barbados.
It was 2 weeks of intense meetings between the IMF's Western Hemisphere Department and government officials. And while thanking all concerned, the Prime Minister said it is no small achievement, recording 8 consecutive levels of growth, reaching staff-level agreement, and the lowest unemployment rate since 2007. But she had some caution.
We are not yet where we want to be, but what we've been able to do as a country is in this period of time not necessarily only bring and have the correct fiscal indices, not only prop up and stabilize our exchange rate, but we've also been able to ensure that Bajans have access to minimum wages. We've been able to put back and recapitalize the fleet in the Transport Board, as we are continuing to do so. We've done it with the Sanitation Services Authority. We're doing literally the rebuilding that needs to be done in order to ensure the social capital stability that is necessary for us on 166 square miles.
According to Prime Minister Motley, the country is on a growth trajectory and gave examples of the areas.
The renewable energy sector, to us being able, as we said, to put in the early work to build out for Barbados a new pharmaceutical sector, to be able to build out the diversification of this economy through those things, as well as looking towards the establishment of a heritage economy, as well as looking towards ensuring that apart from the life sciences and the new food sciences terminal that we opened last November, that we also have a renewed purpose for agriculture and for manufacturing.
Prime Minister Motley says a roadmap intended for households and civil society groups to sustain the kind of growth this country needs is already in place.
We believe that if we put in and continue the areas that we've been strengthening in terms of our public financial management, in terms of our institutional strengthening in the Ministry of Health, in terms of our institutional strengthening in education and training, in terms of our governance review and the constitutional reviews that are taking place, that we can reposition this country to secure its future for the next 2 to 3 decades.
Barbados' performance under the IMF program got the green light from Deputy Division Chief and Mission Chief for Barbados, Pablo Mora.
We are happy to see that the economy is recovering strongly after all the series of shocks that it suffered in the past few years. We saw that the economy, that tourism has recovered strongly, that GDP growth has grown for several quarters, and that the outlook for this year remains very strong with a continued expansion of the economy.
The Prime Minister said training and institutional reform will carry Barbados the extra way. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Motley stating Barbados is not where they want to be, but they are doing the necessary rebuilding to secure the future of Barbados for the next 2 to 3 decades. Ladies and gentlemen, we break for WSN's News on the Hour. When we return, well, we'll continue with some regional updates, and then we'll welcome our guest for this morning, our final guest, that is. We'll be right back after this.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. OWTU meets with retirees at Medical Center Pointe-a-Pierre. Attorney weighs in on Stand Your Ground law. Regionally, Nigerian airline acquires 70% stake in Liat. And internationally, Harry and Meghan in near catastrophic car chase. Now for the details. The Oilfield Workers Trade Union executives hosted a meeting with all former workers of Petrotrin, retirees and retrenched at Medical Center Guaracara Park, Pointe-a-Pierre on Wednesday. The union updated the former workers, who they say are suffering due to the closure of the company, on their various matters and as well as highlight the current plight of Petrotrin retirees.
They deny you your medical plan. The over $100 billion you've contributed to national development. You pay tax, you're still paying tax. They're taking your money, flying all over the place to get medical attention for themselves. We're telling you, something has to be wrong with that company. Something has to be wrong with that. But you know what even more wrong with that? If we continue looking at the thing conveniently and saying that if somebody else do it was wrong, but if them do it is right, and you're supporting them against yourself, if we continue with that, not only them wrong, but you wrong.
Attorney at Law Martin George has weighed in on the suggestion to implement the Stand Your Ground law. The suggestion was made by opposition leader Kamla Persaud-Bissessar some weeks ago as the crime situation continues to escalate. Has weighed in on the suggestion. Weeks ago, as the crime situation continues to escalate. Has weighed in on the suggestion. Weeks ago, as the continues to escalate. In regional news now, a Nigerian airline Air Peace is expected to take a 70% stake in Liat 2020 Limited, with the carrier to be run strictly on a commercial basis. This was revealed by Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown, who said that efforts are being made to establish the Air Operating Certificate for Liat 2020. In international news now, Prince Harry, Meghan and her mother were involved in a near-catastrophic car chase involving paparazzi, a spokesperson for the couple has claimed. The incident happened after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex attended an awards ceremony in New York on Tuesday. In a statement, the prince's spokesperson said the relentless pursuit lasted over 2 hours. They added it resulted in near collisions. The BBC has not been able to independently verify the details. Well, that was your News to the Hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah, hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds, Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunas Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
Welcome back to AM Prime. Thank you for staying with us. So let's get straight back into the regional dates that we continue with this morning, going across to Jamaica, where the government and opposition JSC members are at odds over bailed act proposals. Just bear in mind, a couple of days ago, there was a Privy Council ruling which upheld the government's position that there should be minimum sentences for certain crimes, such as gun possession. Well, let's take a look at this report coming from Jamaica.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
And a special welcome once again to our viewers on onespotmedia.com.
A ruling by the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council has bolstered the government's push to impose tougher prison time for gun crimes.
A teenager who was sentenced to 15 years for wounding with intent during a robbery in 2013 had challenged the constitutionality of the ruling.
But that appeal was today rejected. In 2013, then 17-year-old Tafari Morrison was sentenced to a mandatory 15 years imprisonment after pleading guilty to illegal possession of a firearm, aggravated robbery, and wounding with intent. The charges stem from a shooting a year earlier in which the victim was robbed of his cell phone and shot multiple times, even though he had handed over his phone to Morrison and his cronies. Morrison's attorneys had appealed, arguing that the 15-year sentence for wounding with intent was unlawful because it was determined in accordance with a statutory minimum. However, on Thursday, the Privy Council rejected the appeal, upholding the sentencing. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has welcomed the ruling.
The case itself is of great importance as it analyzes the effect of minimum mandatory sentence generally imposed and how it must be proportionate to the humane and degrading treatment that sentences can cause.
In its summary document, the Privy Council upheld the 15-year sentence for wounding with intent on the basis that the offense carries a minimum sentence of 15 years and the minimum sentence is constitutional. Since the government proposed imposing a minimum mandatory sentence for gun-related crimes, there has been pushback in some quarters. Some argue that the move takes away the judge's authority to take mitigating circumstances into consideration, while others question the constitutionality of mandatory minimum sentences. But according to the Justice Minister, the ruling shows that the government is moving in the right direction. He believes the Privy Council's ruling indicates that the sentence was not inhumane or degrading with respect to a juvenile, and that the use of guns has damaged the Jamaican society and consequently should attract a sentence with a big deterrent element.
No doubt those persons who have questioned the minimum mandatory in the recent passed Firearms Act will now see that at the highest level it is quite constitutional, and we will be examining the proposed minimum mandatory in the cases of murder when they come before the Joint Select Committee, which should be meeting shortly.
All right, well, that update coming from Jamaica. We have one more regional to share with you, and we'll go to Belize, actually. Another full day of presentations and discussions as the creative, actually that's the wrong description, sorry, my apologies. What's coming out of Belize is to deal with forest fires, actually, so let's take a look at this report.
Unfortunately, most of it is negligent and human-created fires. We have responded to three fires over the last week that are serious fires, burning in the Albak area, burning in the Vaca Forest Reserve, and burning outside the mountain pine ridge, but affecting the mountain pine ridge. Apparently, they were all lit by humans, either burning their farms or burning garbage and leaving it unattended. And then the forest department, along with the protected area managers and the real estate owners who have houses in those areas, had to respond to these fires. So this is a situation where we keep singing it every year, that you don't burn during the hottest part of the day. You don't burn when it is windy. You make sure you have a fire line so that the fire does not jump out of your property and go into somebody else's property. And you definitely don't light a fire and leave it unattended. But it seems that this is a situation that's going on all over the country. And it is unfortunate because we're losing a lot of our good ecosystem. The fire is affecting many of our protected areas, the ones that we boast about internationally. And it is something that is difficult to deal with, because when you have a huge forest fire, VJ, no matter what kind of equipment you have, it is difficult for you to fight that fire when you have already a 96-degree temperature. You have the air is extremely dry. The materials on the ground is thick because of the hurricane that we had last year. So all these things add together to create serious issues when it comes to us trying to address the fire.
All right, well, we have to take a quick break here on AM Prime. When we return, we'll welcome our final guest this morning. Stay tuned to the program.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order, or visit us in-store at Force's flagship Mac Beam. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back to AM Prime. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to welcome to the program the Chief Executive Officer of the Digicel Foundation, Ms. Penny Gomez. Good morning, Ms. Gomez.
To you and to all the viewers.
And Ms. Risa Brathwaite, she's the Social Performance and Social Investment Advisor for Shell Trinidad and Tobago Limited. Hello, Ms. Brathwaite. Good to see you.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Well, ladies, thank you very much for joining me. Folks, why are we speaking to Ms. Gomez and Ms. Brathwaite this morning? Well, Digicel Foundation and Shell Trinidad and Tobago Limited have partnered to offer $100,000 grants for the EPIC program. Now, Ms. Gomez, let's start with you. Exactly what is the EPIC program and what is the goal, the intention coming from this program?
You know, the name says it all. It's a fabulous program. Anytime you hear the word EPIC, that's what you think of. It actually stands for Extraordinary Projects Impacting Communities. And it is a grants program. Last year, it launched in 2016. And last year, for our anniversary year, our 10th anniversary, we upped the grants to $100,000. And we felt that that worked so well because they were able to do, the beneficiaries were able to do so much more. We said, let's keep it this year. And Shell thankfully partnered with us to be able to do that, to offer 10 lucky organizations $100,000 each to make a difference in their community in the areas of environment, renewable energy, and agriculture.
Well, I love the personality and the energy this morning, Ms. Gomez. Thank you for that. That's always an uplifter. But Ms. Brathwaite, why has Shell Trinidad and Tobago partnered with Digicel for this particular project?
Well, we actually worked with Digicel before in the past, a few years ago when we introduced girls, well, not introduced, but we supported Girls Power Tech, where we introduced a number of girls to experiences and careers in tech. And that was such a fruitful partnership for us because we realized that the foundation shares the same values as us in terms of promoting sustainable development, community development, equality, and so on. And so we, when they approached us with this, we thought this is an opportunity for us to do more, for more, with more, you know, the collective strengths of Shell and Digicel Foundation. We can really help to empower and transform communities. And another thing that really stood out to us is the themes that were chosen: renewable energy, environment, and agriculture. You know, for countries in the Caribbean and in the world right now, we're battling climate change. We're seeing the effects in terms of our adverse weather conditions. You know, we know that there is a strong need to focus on our environment, focus on cleaner and more energy solutions, which is a priority for Shell. So we're excited to partner with the foundation, particularly because of the emphasis that's placed on these critical issues and the opportunities that it's going to provide for community-based organizations that have been working on this for so long with limited support to be able to do even better, more powerful, more sustainable work.
Is it through that community empowerment that these goals of renewable energy, agriculture and environment are hoped to be realized? Because I'll be very honest with you, Ms. Brathwaite, those are three terms that are often touted, and as we're moving forward, as the world continues to, you know, go through its cycle day to day, that is what we focus on. But it's not something that's often achieved. We see a lot more NGOs and smaller organizations working hard at it. So is it hope through this community development and empowerment that such goals are realized and actually come to fruition?
Certainly. I mean, the fact is, these are ambitious goals, and no company or no individual, no organization can achieve it on its own. I mean, we as a company have been investing in hydro, solar, and wind technologies to try to provide those cleaner energy solutions. But it's going to take a while, which is why our net zero ambition is 2050. It requires a number of stakeholders to work at it, to come at it through different avenues in order for us to see the ultimate change in society. It's a long-term goal, but it is achievable. And it's only achievable if we all kind of put our attention and resources towards it. And the other thing I would say is that the truth is there are a number of great and credible local organizations that have been tackling this. They've been doing upcycling. There are projects that Digicel Foundation has supported in the past that have addressed these concerns. So now it's really about making sure that we keep the attention on it and make sure that it's understood to be a priority, not just within small groups, but within wider society.
I absolutely love that, especially with how you said that, how it could be achieved, but people can't do it on their own. No one organization can do it on their own. And this is why the partnership between Shell and Digicel is doing a great justice to society. Ms. Gomez, back to you. This EPIC program, the EPIC Foundation, exactly how many communities has it helped, especially since its inauguration in 2016?
162 communities, and we've invested over 4 million TT in these communities, and we've impacted over 60,000 persons. So this year, really hoping to make a dent in those categories that we've mentioned. I do want to tell people, please go to our social media pages and to Shell's. The application form, the link to it is there. It's a fairly straightforward form. You can be a community group, a church-based group, faith-based organization, or even a school. You can apply to get one of the grants. We will only give 10 grants, so you have to come with your A game. A reminder that, of course, you have to have your annual returns up to speed. You do need to demonstrate that it will affect the wider community, be impactful. And you do have to show that it will be sustainable. You can even go to our website if you want any questions that you may have, any queries. You find all the answers to those questions on our website, digicelfoundation.org.
162 communities with over $4 million spent. Wow. So, you know, I've asked Ms. Brathwaite this question, but how does Digicel actually benefit from this? In fact, what does Digicel want out of this? The Digicel Foundation, that is.
Yes, the Digicel Foundation. What do we want? Well, we are, in fact, a corporate NGO. And for us, we've held true to the mandate that our patron, the co-chair, the chair of Digicel has said to us, wherever Digicel is, the communities around it really should thrive. So it's really altruistic from that perspective. If we are here, if we are a commercial entity, the parent body, if they are in fact, running a commercial enterprise and people around them where we operate, it is important that the people around us also flourish. And our way of doing that is really just going into the communities, into the heart of the communities. One of the beautiful things about the EPIC program is that we are not telling people what they want or what they need. The actual programs come from within the communities. So they do their needs audit. They decide what is, on the agenda for them. And then they decide, based on the various categories that we've mentioned, which we know are really current and relevant categories that we are all dealing with on a global issue, a global scale. And then they decide, you know what? I want to make a difference in my community. For instance, we've done water tank farms because there in Toubasson, in the east, that was a major issue for them. They got together and say, we don't have water during the dry season. So let's just get together, apply for grants from the foundation, and then work with WASA and get it done. And we were so proud when we did that. Things like the dirt oven in Beauséjour, where they had the tastiest of food. they decided to bypass, the regular means of cooking and go back to what they've done before, but using very modern ways of getting the agro-processing done, etc. But really using things that are organic and very good for you, for your body. So there are a whole set of ways that people can, in fact, make a difference in their communities. And for us, it is just knowing that, in fact, we are meeting the communities at the point of their needs for the foundation and for Digicel. So there's nothing that we want from it, nothing greater than seeing these projects come to fruition.
That's excellent. Ms. Brathwaite, back to you. Beyond just the financial donation of $100,000 grants, which, by the way, is excellent, is it that Shell will be offering further support just beyond that?
So, through this project, let me speak a little bit more to the benefits here. Yes, there's the opportunity to win $100,000, but the way that the foundation has structured it is that you also have an awesome opportunity for capacity building. So as you go through the different phases, they will be shortlisted to about 50 organizations that will benefit from training directly in project management, financial management, monitoring and evaluation, so that they can go back and enhance their proposal. There will then be further shortlisting after that. So the benefits for this project multiply, right? Not just the opportunity to get the money, but the opportunity to be trained as well. And of course, Shell has its own mechanism for supporting organizations. You can approach Shell directly at any time with your great proposals, projects that really very much align with the criteria for this EPIC project, in that it must be sustainable. You must be able to clearly articulate what you're going to do with the funds. It can't be a project that benefits just, you and your cousin and a few friends. It should be something that targets people in the community, regardless of age, regardless of gender. It should be able to create wider opportunity for transformation. So as a company, we do have a number of themes that we focus on. Education, community skills, but we also really support projects in these areas. These are the themes we care about: renewable energy, environment, and agriculture. So please do reach out to Shell when you need support with those, but take advantage of this specific opportunity in partnership with the foundation.
Excellent, that's wonderful. Ms. Gomez, final question this morning. In terms of the eligible organizations, the target audience, and even the criteria, could you speak a bit more to that? Because I know you mentioned the forms are available via social media and the website, but if you just wanted to share some information on that for the viewers this morning.
Sure. Well, go to our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram and Shell's, and you will just find a link to the form there. The form you can fill it in about 15 minutes. Just make sure that you have, of course, your information with proof that you are a registered organization, nonprofit. So you just need to make sure you have that. Make sure that obviously that comes with knowing there's a governance structure. So you should have that information handy. Your annual return to show proof of that. You need to have that handy. And you just need to really be able to, it's almost as if you need to do a project pitch. You need to do that. So in that category that says describe your project, what it is, what it's called, and what it is, you really have to just bring your A game there, because that is your 5-second pitch. So when we read it, we must go, yeah, fantastic. So we're looking for innovation. We're looking for the fact that it will be, like Rissa said, it will actually benefit the wider community, not just a very close-knit circle. That's going to be important to us. You have to show that it is sustainable. So beyond us investing in $100,000 in the project, beyond that, it can't just stop when we're there. It has to keep giving, as the young people say now. It has to be giving. So that's really important to us. When that is done, the first shortlist will happen by June 5th. We'll announce the first set of organizations that have made it through to that level, followed by a workshop where we will again give the details that Rissa mentioned. Then we're going to go to another shortlist of 30. Then we'll go to a final 10. That will be a big reveal.
Well, ladies, I must say, this is wonderful. In fact, it's not just benefiting communities or entrepreneurs, young individuals or NGOs, it's Trans-Tobago as a whole. So for the work that Shell is doing along with the Digicel Foundation for this EPIC grant program, Thank you guys very much. And certainly, this is wonderful news. And by the way, the energy, the smiles, it's a wonderful day to start the day. Thank you, ladies, for joining me on AM Prime this morning.
And thank you for allowing us to share it with you.
Always a pleasure. So just bring your A game, and you never know. You might just be the lucky one to get that $100,000 grant from the Digicel Foundation and Shell's EPIC program. Ladies, do have a wonderful day. Keep up the excellent work, and I look forward to more conversations in the future.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was Ms. Penny Gomez, the Chief Executive Officer of the Digicel Foundation, and Ms. Teresa Brathwaite, Social Performance and Social Investment Advisor with Shell Trinidad and Tobago Limited, the EPIC program. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like more information, it's always available via Shell's social media page as well as the Digicel Foundation's social media page. For now, that's where we'll have to conclude it on AM Prime, but thank you very much for joining me this morning. Have a great day today. Tomorrow's Friday, or as I like to say, Friday. And we're all excited and happy for that. But join me again bright and early from 6 a.m. for AM Prime tomorrow morning. Until then, bye-bye.
Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah, hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here. Played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunas Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the